When evil comes around, where can justice be found? Justice, justice for all. If your rights are denied, tell me who can provide. Justice, justice for all. They'll show you how the justice system works every day, teaching law and order and the role that you play. Justice,
Justinian, Amicus Curiae,
justice,
Miranda Rights, Hey Utica!
justice for all.
Housed in the hallowed halls of the Palm Beach County Courthouse, a classroom offering a case study in the criminal justice system is about to begin. Our teachers, well-versed in law and thoroughly civic-minded, will be our guides throughout this 10-part semester, sharing information from the very experts involved in the criminal justice system.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, to the CJC's Citizens Criminal Justice Academy. I'm Just Gentium. Allow me to introduce my fellow instructors, May Utica, Miranda Rights, and last but not least, Amicus Curiae. We're here for you because we believe an informed citizen is an involved citizen. Right, Miranda?
That's right, Jess. The CJC strives to let the constituents of Palm Beach County know what their legal system is all about.
You know, the first thing we might need to do is explain what the CJC is.
Good idea, AC. Let's check with someone who knows all about the Criminal Justice Commission, the CJC.
The Criminal Justice Commission was created by the Board of County Commissioners in August of 1988. And the idea was that just like so many regions in the United States, there was really no forum that was organized and staffed to bring together all of the key agency heads from criminal justice agencies in the county. So the idea behind the Criminal Justice Commission is that we have about 12 to 15 task forces that are made up totally of over 200 people, and they work cooperatively to identify whatever the key issues are that are cross-agency issues, and then we do the research for them and develop their plans and help them to get funding to implement. We address many different areas, though. It's extremely diverse. We might work on crime prevention initiatives, auto theft prevention, for example. We might be dealing at 1 minute with the issue of truancy. We have an entire committee of people who are experts from the school district, from law enforcement agencies throughout the county, from the school district police, and from social service agencies that can help us to develop plans for truancy programs. We've created programs such as the Weed and Seed Initiative from the federal government, the idea of bringing together city, county, state, and federal law enforcement and prosecution agents so that they can address the street crime. Then we have community police come in and build the relationships with the neighbors and particularly with the children in the community. And then we move on to the seeding efforts where we get money to do recreation programs in the summer, after school tutoring.
4 times 3 is 12. 4 times 3 is 12.
And we've had extraordinary success.
How are you, sir?
Some of the other projects we've implemented are a community court in the Tamron-Sapodilla area of West Palm Beach. The idea behind this is that you reach people who are committing very low-level crimes that are more quality of life crimes. We bring them in before the court. They enter into an agreement with the court offered by the state attorney and the public defender, and basically that agreement includes doing community service in that community that they have harmed, looking at the community as the victim, and then having an assessment for substance abuse, and then they comply with all those things that they agreed to, and when they come back, the court then sees them and congratulates them and then releases them, but basically without a record. Since we run the community court in the community, it almost becomes sort of a drop-in center for people in the community who need help, because we've created a high level of comfortability in that environment that people tell each other, yes, if you need help, the guy down the street here in that court building will actually help you get a job, or they'll help you get treatment, or they'll help you arrange for transportation to and from your job, or for daycare for your child, or whatever it might be. So the reputation becomes that you can come to the community court and it's a community helping place rather than a place to go to and be frightened or intimidated. It's a full amount of work that we have, but I think that the chief of police in particular in West Palm and the council members have been very pleased with the success that they've seen. And I think that the county is most pleased because many times those folks, but for this opportunity, would have ended up in the county jail. So we've made a big impact there, and hopefully are helping to turn lives around and improve those lower economic communities. One of the issues that we've been working on and will continue to is an issue that's of great interest to the public after all of the events with September 11th, and that is police radio communications. We have about 25 disparate radio communication systems in Palm Beach County. So you can imagine how difficult it is for police officers who are in Jupiter to talk with another police officer even in North Palm Beach. So we have brought together those people who are the technical experts in the field of communications, and they will be moving hopefully very soon toward bringing in a new system.
Ma'am, I'm issuing you a citation for running a stop sign.
We're looking at a few other things like the possibility of computerizing all of the traffic ticket processes right now. So we try to reach whatever avenues are needed for interagency cooperation. We don't want to run programs. That's not our goal. Pretty much our goal is to help the public understand how their criminal justice system works and who the players are, and more specifically what their roles are in the system, and how we are able in this county, as opposed to many counties, to work cooperatively between these agencies. And that's how we get, the best bang for our buck and the best resources in this county. We've been able to keep our jail population down to probably about an average population of 2,300 people per day, whereas our neighbors in Broward County have a daily population of about 4,600 per day. We've been tremendously fortunate to have the level of commitment that we have from our criminal justice agency heads and from the county commission, who really funds this initiative. The taxpayers really do pay for all of this system, and hopefully you'll see how effective and efficient the system has grown and become through the cooperation and coordination that we've been able to develop in this county through the Criminal Justice Commission's initiatives.
Quite interesting. And what kind of academy would we be if we didn't have questions? Let's take a look at a few examples.
Don't worry, citizens, this is not a pop quiz. We'll review our topics later on, so you'll have the answers.
Hey, Jess, when you think of our legal system, what comes to mind?
I'd have to say the courts, but that may be a bit judgmental.
I see. Sounds like we may want to get the whole truth about our criminal courts from someone in the know. Hey, citizens, let's hear it from an actual judge.
The judicial branch of government is one of the three branches of government here in the state of Florida, and that's modeled after the United States Constitution as well. And that is, we have the legislature who passes the laws, we have the executive branch, which is the governor, and the law enforcement, the police officers, and they're in charge of enforcing the laws. And then you have the court system, which interprets the laws. In the state of Florida, crimes are split up into two categories. Misdemeanor crimes are those crimes that are punishable by not to exceed 1 year in the Palm Beach County Jail. If you're convicted of a misdemeanor crime, such as petty theft, DUI, passing a bad check less than $300, simple battery, you could receive a sentence of no more than 1 year, and if you're convicted and sentenced to jail, that time is done in the Palm Beach County Jail, not outside of Palm Beach County. The other category of crime, felony crimes, those are the more serious crimes. Aggravated battery, burglary, robbery, rape, selling drugs, murder, and those crimes are punishable by more than 1 year in the Palm Beach County Jail. If you commit one of those crimes and are sentenced to more than 1 year, you will do it in the state prison system. So if you commit a felony crime in Palm Beach County, you would likely serve your prison sentence outside of Palm Beach County, wherever the Department of Corrections sentences you to. The misdemeanors are handled by county court judges. Every county in the state of Florida has at least one county court judge. Here in Palm Beach County, we have 17 county court judges because of our caseload, and the population requires that much judicial work effort. The county court judges that will hear the misdemeanor crimes have geographic jurisdiction throughout all of Palm Beach County. So any crime committed in Palm Beach County that's a misdemeanor comes before a county court judge for he or she to resolve that case. On the other hand, the felony cases come before a circuit court judge. We are in the 15th Judicial Circuit. There are 20 judicial circuits in the state of Florida, and the geographic boundaries of the 15th Judicial Circuit is Palm Beach County. We are a single county circuit. And so geographically, county court judges and circuit court judges cover the same area, but it's the difference in the type of crime that would make the distinction between whether you go to a county court judge or a circuit court judge. Here in the state of Florida, we have 4 levels of courts. We have county court, then we have circuit court, and those are both trial courts. In county court and in circuit court, you would have prosecutors bring evidence that a crime was committed and have jury trials to resolve those cases. The first level of appeals is the District Court of Appeals, and they hear appeals. So if you are convicted of a felony, for example, and you want to appeal that decision because the defendant feels that the judge made a mistake, a harmful error in his or her trial, they would appeal it to district court. And the district, we are in the 4th District Court of Appeals, and that main courthouse is here in Palm Beach County as well. And that's over on Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard, and that's where your appeal would go. Unless you're convicted of a capital crime, first-degree murder, the appeal goes directly to the Supreme Court of Florida, and that's the highest court here in the state of Florida, the Supreme Court. Let's take, for example, somebody who gets arrested for driving while under the influence of alcohol. Here's the way that person would travel through the system. They're out driving one night, they get pulled over, and the officer comes to the opinion that the person's driving while under the influence of alcohol, and so they arrest that person. They'll take that person down to the Palm Beach County Jail and administer the breathalyzer exam and gather whatever evidence they wish to gather, and then they'll be booked into the Palm Beach County Jail. If they're a Palm Beach County resident, they'll be permitted to sign an appearance form promising to come to court, and once they sober up, once they pass the breathalyzer test 3, 5, 8 hours later, however long that takes, they're permitted to leave on their promise that they come back to court for their first court date, which would be an arraignment. At the arraignment, the judge will formally notify the defendant of the charge pending against him or her, and then the defendant has to enter a plea. The defendant will have to say, I plead guilty or I plead not guilty. If the defendant pleads not guilty, then the judge will make sure that that person has an attorney, and if they can't afford their own attorney, then the judge has to ask a series of questions to determine if the defendant is indigent or without sufficient funds to hire their own attorney. The law requires that each person have an attorney, whether or not they can afford it. And if someone can't afford their attorney, they'll be appointed, a court-appointed attorney, someone from the public defender's office. The attorney will meet with the defendant and go over the strengths and weaknesses of the case that the state has to determine whether they want to go to trial or want to try to work out a case by admitting their guilt, working out a plea negotiation. Once a defendant elects to go to trial and decides not to accept whatever plea offer may be offered by the state attorneys, if any, they have to decide whether they want to go jury or non-jury. In the jury trial, it is the jury, the 6 people called in from the community that hear the case, that decide whether the state has proven its case beyond a reasonable doubt. The only exception to the 6 jurors is a capital case, a case involving an allegation of first-degree murder that could result in a death penalty. The law mandates that that be a 12-person jury. If it's a non-jury trial, there's no jury, and the state presents its evidence and the defense presents its evidence directly to the judge, and the judge acts as a jury. And so it would be the judge that would make the decision whether or not the state proved the case beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. At the conclusion of the trial, if the defendant is found not guilty, then the defendant his bond money is returned to him if he posted a bond, and he's discharged and the case is over. If the defendant is found guilty, then the judge would set the case for sentencing. At the conclusion of a trial, if a defendant's found guilty, the defendant still has the opportunity to appeal his or her conviction. At the appellate court level, what happens is not a presentation of the evidence, and the question doesn't become, is the defendant guilty or not guilty? The question for the appellate judges is, did this defendant receive a fair trial? Did the trial judge make a mistake, and was this mistake serious enough to require a retrial? And if the appellate court says no, the defendant had a fair trial, his conviction should stand, that's the end of the case for that defendant. Unless a very unique set of circumstances that might arise, they could appeal from the appellate court level, the district court level, up to the Supreme Court. And you don't get to appeal to the Supreme Court as a matter of right. Not everybody that wants to appeal to the Supreme Court gets to go there. The Supreme Court will read the request for the appeal. They call it a writ of certiorari. Please, Supreme Court, consider this appeal. This is why you should consider it. And the Supreme Court will say, no, we're not going to hear that case. And so then the final decision stands of the appellate court, the intermediate appellate court. Or the Supreme Court if it's a unique issue of law, or if the law in the Fifth Circuit conflicts with the law in the First Circuit on this very same issue, then the Supreme Court may accept those two cases to resolve the conflict so that we are all on the same page at the same time on a statewide basis. And it's my belief that citizen participation in the jury process is what gives the judicial system the solid foundation of its credibility, because it's not just a bunch of bureaucrats that are callous to the cases, the hearing them day in and day out, but it's the citizens of the state of Florida here in Palm Beach County. It's the citizens of Palm Beach County that come in and make very important decisions affecting the life and liberty and property of people that come before the court system.
Today, we're in for a special treat. It's time we take a field trip right here in the courthouse.
The groundbreaking for the new Palm Beach County Courthouse was in 1991. We officially moved in on April 20th, 1995. The facility has 11 floors. We have 44 existing courtrooms and 2 floors that are shell space for future expansion. The building was built at a cost of $129 million and is a state-of-the-art facility, and at one time considered one of the finest courthouses in the country. We have over 800 employees here in this courthouse, and more than 1,000 people a day visit this facility. We're now in the jury assembly room here on the first floor of the Palm Beach County Courthouse, and on any given day there's anywhere from 150 to 300 people sitting in these chairs here waiting to serve as jurors. Since anyone that possesses a driver's license in the state of Florida and is of age is eligible for jury duty. Anywhere between 8:30 and 9 o'clock every morning, the bailiffs will come down and bring up the venari, what we call the venari, which is the group of jurors that will be selected from to sit as jurors on the case and eventually render a verdict. Next to our jury assembly room is our Palm Beach County Law Library, and it happens to be one of the finest law libraries in the state of Florida. It's open 7 days a week. A lot of people don't know that. It's open on Saturdays and Sundays, and it's used by the legal community and persons that we call pro se litigants, the ones that represent themselves. Our law library has all of the books from every state in the country and a very knowledgeable staff there to assist anyone that needs help. This is a portrait of Judge Charles Chillingsworth, who was a judge here in Palm Beach County in the 1950s. He holds the distinction of being the only judge ever murdered by another judge. There's a book in the public library system called The Murder Trial of Judge Joe Peel, and it's very interesting reading. Right now we're in the basement of the courthouse in the Sheriff's Office Detention Center, where anywhere from 100 to 120 prisoners a day are brought from the main facility on Gun Club Road. This new facility, the buses come in the morning, the gates go down behind them, and then they're unloaded from the bus into these holding areas. The main difference between the new facility and the old courthouse is that the prisoners have no contact with the public. They're held here in the basement and transported in these elevators to the courtroom and returned from the courtroom to the holding area. This is the door that the prisoners enter the courtroom and leave the courtroom by, and it's actually the door that Nathaniel Brazil came through during his trial here in courtroom 10F. To my left, we have the jury box where the jury would sit during the trial. Over here to my right is the witness stand where the witness would testify during the trial. We have the judge's bench here. This desk here is where the clerk of court would sit, and over here we have our counsel tables. The defendant and his attorney would sit at this table, and the prosecution would always sit at this table, closest to the jury box. This is the jury deliberation room, and this is where the jury would retire to after hearing all the evidence and the argument of counsel to make their decision on the case. Once a jury reaches its verdict, they would be brought back into the courtroom where their decision will be read. But there's more to this courthouse than jury rooms, courtrooms, and holding cells. We have a lot of unique operations here at the courthouse that other courthouses don't have. One is our centralized recording system that we have on the 5th floor, where 12 courtrooms are electronically recorded for the official record. This saves the taxpayers of Palm Beach County about $1 million a year.
Command center.
Another example would be our command center that's located on the 4th floor, where the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office is able to conduct surveillance in and around the building through the 300 cameras that are located in this facility. But our security does not end there. We have 2 PBSO canines assigned to this facility that patrol the building and are very effective at sniffing the mail and checking for possible bombs. The dogs are also dispatched to vehicles and check them out as well. The public is welcome to sit in on any trial here at the courthouse, and anyone interested in taking a tour should contact us here at the Court Administrator's Office.
Well, it's been quite a class, but before you're dismissed, we promised you answers. So let's review what we learned today.
Satisfied with the results of their first class, the 4 instructors enjoy a moment to reflect on the day's success until...
Uh-oh. It looks like we got trouble. The scales of justice are out of balance.
Quickly, the villain viewer.
It's Jailbird. He's flown the coop.
We'd better do something before he decides to nest where he's not wanted.
And so, our 4 instructors who lead us in the classroom prepare to transform into their true identity, not as guides, but as guardians of the very practice they teach.
All for justice, and justice for all.
In the battle to balance the scales of justice, there's justice for all. As our heroes fly off to pursue their winged adversary, what fate lies ahead? Will they cage the elusive jailbird? Or will they find themselves without a wing and a prayer? Find out in the next episode of the CJC's Citizens Criminal Justice Academy.